Howdy folks, it's Angel the Hunting Gear Guy. Sorry I haven't gotten a video up lately. I've got a cold I'm trying to fight off, and I'm still going to be a little bit sniffly during this video, but I kind of wanted to get this thing rolling a little bit sooner rather than later. This is the Steyr Scout, or Steyr Manlicher? Steyr? I don't know, whatever. This is the epitome of the Scout rifle concept. I'm going to go over it from a hunting perspective. Instead of just doing all my video in one shot, I'm going to do a whole bunch of little shots here just so I can go through all the details. This rifle has a ton of features on it, and I kind of want to go through them all in detail. Now, starting with the buttstock, we've got these kind of unique sling attachment points. They use these T-shaped things that you can kind of mash in there, push, and then twist, and they just kind of like lock in place. They're very sturdy. And it's kind of cool because it's a very smooth attach point. Now the butt piece, I've actually got this piece loosened off just to show you guys how this works. He's actually used these spacers. I've got a couple spacers here to adjust the length of pull. Now I'm not a terribly big guy. I'm just 6 feet, but this is way too short for me. So what you'll want to do if you're a little bit bigger is to use these spacers. I'm just going to connect two of them. They're very sturdy. This is the system that Steyr uses in their Pro Hunter series as well. They just kind of snap together. Maybe I'll put the butt pad on this piece first, just while it's off. There we go. And then we have to give this a nice whack. There we go. And now you can see that we've got a nice longer length of pull with these spacers, and that's going to make this a more comfortable rifle to shoot. Just also on the buttstock here, we have this secondary magazine. I kind of like this. You know, whenever I'm looking at a mag-fed rifle, I like the idea of a secondary mag that I can at least cut, that it comes with the rifle, and I like it even more when it's on the rifle because this makes it very easy for if you're going on a trip or something like that, to check that you have the mags for your rifle and that you're kind of ready to go. And this fits in very securely on there, and it doesn't make it too wide. I've seen some of these rifles where they fit a mag in and it's clearly been a detriment to the buttstock, but on this one it's fine. Okay, nice and good. Now you guys are nice and close in. This safety is also kind of interesting. It's got 3 positions. It's got fire. You can see a little red dot at the back there. That's our fire position. We've got safe, and while it's in safe, we can still operate the bolt. Some other rifles will do this. And it's also got a 3rd position. You see that little plastic piece going up there, and that locks this, and you have to basically push it in to rotate it, which is kind of interesting because that makes for a safer carry rifle if you were to take this out into the woods or something like that. While it's in this position, it's also got a different position for the bolt. So I'm just going to show, you see how it's a little bit farther away from the stock there? It'll actually lock down, and that kind of gives us a more secure, less snaggy rifle that's going to be a little bit better to carry. So that's kind of an interesting idea. Again, it's a lot more complex than on a lot of rifles, but it's an interesting feature nonetheless. Moving forward on the rifle, I'm just going to get into the bolt here. Now the bolt, you can see here that we've got a cocking indicator at the back here. I'm just going to check my action, make sure I'm all empty. Yeah, I'm empty there. Just watch that cocking indicator, and you can see that as I pull the trigger, that's going to disappear in there. So there's some other rifles that'll do that out there, but it is on this rifle as well. Now to extract the bolt on this thing, it's a little bit different than you normally do it on some rifles out there, but it's super easy. Okay, we have to have it cocked. We're going to put it into safe. We're going to unlock the bolt. And really, it could be in fire if you wanted to up to this point, but the bolt has to be unlocked and then put it into that, I don't know, that super safe bolt lock mode, and the bolt will just pull right out the back, just like that. Now the bolt itself, let's see if it is, yeah, this is coming through pretty good. Look at how crazy this thing is. It's got like lightning cuts all over the place here to make it lighter. It's got some loops in here. I think I saw that some of this was to get like snow and ice and dirt out of the action and out of the bolt. I don't know. I mean, this is a lot going on in a bolt, and this is where you start to see some of this rifle's price point showing up. This is a $2,000 rifle. you know, in just a plain old plastic stock, but you can start seeing like, holy, this is maybe an over-engineered bolt, in my opinion, but very cool nonetheless. Now the magazines are also somewhat over-engineered. You can see here that we've got kind of these two positions. To unlock them, you have to grab from both sides. It's a very secure locking method. And when they go in, there's two clicks. There's, let me just show it from the side there. You can see here we've got these two little double latches on both sides of the mag here. And as that goes in, there's click one, where, let me just get the bolt unlocked here. That won't actually feed any rounds here. That's basically just sitting there. You can throw rounds in. This is almost like a round, like a magazine cutoff that you would have on those old military rifles when they still thought that you know, that people would just leave mags in and you never change mags and that kind of thing. So I think it's kind of interesting that it's on a modern rifle that there's essentially like a mag cutoff position. But there is kind of a cool use to it. You know, when you're loading up for the morning, let's say you're going out for a morning hunt and you're loading a rifle, what this allows you to do very easily is throw a round in there, chamber your round, and now you have 6 rounds ready to go. This is something that a lot of us out there do, but what we might end up doing is trying to feed a round in through a port and then put a magazine in, which is kind of a pain in the butt. And this system is going to let it is going to make it a lot easier. Is it worth having that feature in? I don't think so. I don't. You know, the thing that I dislike about this whole thing is that you could put your mag in. Maybe you haven't had coffee in the morning or something like that. You could put your mag in, think that you chambered around, and in fact you're in this low position and you haven't chambered around. So I don't really like when complexity adds to how much you've got to do or how much you've got to know about your rifle, and that's one thing that you could overlook if you haven't had your morning coffee. Now we're still on the rear of the rifle. There's also this emergency iron sight here that you can use if your scope has gone down. It's kind of hard to grab onto, this rear one is, but there you go. And it's kind of like a ghost ring O kind of a thing. Oh, there we go, now we can see it. And you can kind of look through it almost like a peep or a ghost ring. The adjustments on it are there. I don't know how to adjust it, and I don't think I'm ever going to, because why use iron sights on, like, of this kind on a rifle? So this would be, I would think, emergency use only. The front sight, let me just pop that up, is a lot easier to deploy. You just kind of push, you can push forward on this slider here, and it just kind of pulls out this blade. So we've got this blade facing down and forward. It's plastic. I think this is where we get our windage adjustment. Yeah, there's where we've got our windage adjustment. But again, like this is super hypothetical. Maybe if your scope goes down, and you know, scopes back when this rifle was initially designed, maybe they weren't as robust and reliable. But you can get pretty bulletproof scopes these days that that can really take a hammering. Now, just taking a look at the underside of this thing, I'm just going to show a couple things really quickly here. There's a sling stud mount there. There's one on the side over here. And then we have this one towards the rear. This is built for a very specific sling system called the Ching Sling. I've never used one. They're supposed to be like really great for enhancing accuracy. But as you can see, it requires a little bit more complex setup on the rifle itself. Now, also on the underside of the forearm here, we have a rail, a really lightweight rail here. I think this is called the UIT rail. This is where you could mount some different items. I guess this might give you a rail system where you can put a decent bipod on this instead of using the built-in ones. And we also have this this push button here, and this is where you'd push to deploy your bipod. You can see that now we have our bipod loose, and we can click it out. Now the bipod itself, You know, there's a couple of criticisms online for it. Some people are saying it's too high, and if you look at it right now, you're like, wow, that's way too high. On the ground, this height's fine. This static height is about where it needs to be. Again, it's nice to have some sort of variability on height, but you can't get it usually with something that's built in and something that's lightweight like this. We do have a little bit of cant that we can do with this. But that's not available in all bipods out there, right? So this, it isn't perfect by any means, but it's built into the rifle. So I guess you could say that a built-in bipod is better than a bipod that you would leave at home or not even take on the rifle. I don't know if there's a better way of closing these things. That's how I've been doing it. And they just kind of snap right in there. Now, while we're getting towards the front of the rifle now, the one thing you'll notice about the Scout is that we've got a huge top rail on this thing. And what that's built for, primarily, is mounting an intermediate eye relief scope, or a scope that you put closer up front. So, let me get this thing pointed the right way to start with. So the whole idea is you could have a scope like this that's very quick to pull up, easier to point than one that's at the rear. That said, that concept is just a little bit old, and primarily, like, especially what you can do with new scopes is you could get like a 1:4 or something like that. That's going to sit farther back, easier to pull up to the cheek, and give you a little bit more visual clarity than this very small thing will give you. Now, what you do end up with one of these long or intermediate eye relief scopes is really great field of view. You can see in the scope and you can see a ton around. So it does give you a little bit more room for situational awareness. Now, coming to the front of the rifle, we have this very thin, fluted barrel. This particular Scout is in 223 Remington. Most of these are done in 308, but you know, this is a kind of an interesting one, so I figure why not, let's do 223. And we've got a very thin profile barrel. This is going to heat up, so even though this rifle comes with the option of getting 10-round mags, I'd recommend just using the 5-rounders, because you're going to overheat this barrel fairly quickly, and 2 mags of 5 rounds each is going to be sufficient for what you can shoot in a quick setting anyways. So those were the general features of the Steyr Mannlicher Scout rifle. In use, you'll notice a couple of things with it. So we've got that primarily like this scope running it far forward is going to be the big difference. You could mount it in a traditional spot if you wanted to. That's always an option, but kind of defeating the purpose. I mean, the whole idea of having a Scout rifle is that you can do those really quick pull-ups, and you've still got really good awareness of everything that's around you. So there's that. That's quite different than a lot of the rifles that you might traditionally use when you're hunting. The bolt itself is pretty smooth. We've got this kind of half spot in the towards the bottom, and that's that lock spot that we've got there, so that's a little bit different. Again, not bad, just quite different. The bolt can be a little bit catchy. I've found that it is kind of wearing in. Let me just pull it out here. It is wearing in towards the rear, the receiver here. Maybe it'll get better after I use it a whole bunch. I don't know. Just thought I'd mention it. I mean, with a $2,000 rifle, I would expect that a lot of this stuff is done really well, and with this rifle, there's still some rough spots. The stock itself is really well thought out. Like, the features in this thing are awesome, but the build quality isn't where it should be for something that costs this much. This trigger guard here, for example, is kind of cheap and crappy looking. I mean, it's not really what you'd expect on a $2,000 rifle. I'd expect at the least maybe a little bit better molded. I don't know. It's just the combination of the type of plastic that's on there and the way it's molded. It doesn't really feel great. I mean, check out my article on this thing. I've got some really clear pictures of it, and you can judge for yourself. But in my opinion, It doesn't look like a $2,000 rifle. It doesn't feel like a $2,000 rifle. But I think what you do get are just a boatload of features in this thing. And I think that if you're interested in the concept of a scout rifle, I still think this one's the best one out there. There's a Ruger offering, Savage has one, but I still think this one's really where it needs to be. Let me just... Yeah, that bolt is still kind of hitchy. The trigger has a little bit of take up, but then after that, it's pretty crisp. Then without a lot of over travel. Let me just... Yeah, there's practically no over travel in there. So, really good trigger. But is it worth $2,000? Well, for hunting, no. I mean, for hunting, there's if you really love this system, or if you really love the brand, they've also got a Pro Hunter that's very similar to this. It uses the same mags, it's got the same bolt. It's basically they're missing this top rail, which I don't think you really need on a hunting rifle. It's fine to mount your optics in the back here. It's got a heavier weight barrel that you'll probably want anyways, and it's probably, I don't know if they've gone with fewer aluminum components or not, but I'd imagine they would have went with more steel with it. So if you really like the concept, I guess there's that Pro Hunter there as well. So again, I just wanted to go over some of the features on this thing. Is it worth it or not? You know what? I think it comes down to if you want the scout rifle concept or not. If you don't like the scout rifle concept, or if you think it's outdated, don't buy this rifle. That's a stupid idea. If you love the scout rifle concept, maybe this is the one for you, right? It is one of the more expensive versions out there. The Ruger, I think, is about $1,000, and the Savage is $600 or $700. So there you have it. There's a couple of different options, and the Steyr Scout.